Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the North East Non-League Show. Looking back, we're sponsored by Jade Bell and DJ Private Hire. Joining us tonight, we have Wayne Gredziak. Wayne, thank you very much for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you very much for having me again. I think it's second time I've been on now, isn't it?
No, we're never looking back with. I know a lot of fans of the Facebook group and they look at these ones, looking back over the histories and players and managers and stuff like that. It brings back so many memories, not just for yourself, but for people watching as well. So I hope we've got some good stories tonight. But before we get on to the Northern League, obviously with the early days and the Scarborough and the YTS, 16, 17-year-old, tell us a little bit about your time there.
Yeah, so what it was is obviously I used to play for North Yorkshire County, an area district side, and I was just coming to the end of my career, end of my school career at 16, and I remember at the time I used to play. I don't know if you know Michael Dawson's brother, Stephen Dawson and Kevin Dawson. There's three of them, and they're all in my area, North Yorkshire. And I used to play with the oldest in there, and I couldn't get in the centre back. And the county manager turned around to me and said, "Oh, would you mind playing up front?" I said, "Yeah, of course I will." I went and played up front that game for the county, and I remember I scored a hat-trick. And the Scarborough scout was there, and he literally was like, "Oh, can you play up front?" I said, "Yeah, I'll play up front." And he said, "Oh, brilliant." He said, "We've got a trial next week. I'd like you to come along." So I went along, and then I went and scored a couple more. And before you knew it, I'd signed schoolboys even before I'd left school. So I'd signed schoolboys at Scarborough. I was playing for Scarborough in the old third division. And then I signed first year YT with Scarborough Football Club. So as soon as I left school, I went into digs and went and moved down to Scarborough. So yeah, it was a bit of a surreal moment. 16, turning 17, going on there with Mick Wadsworth and as manager.
Like say Football League as well. Obviously at that time it was massive for the club in the area at the time, wasn't it?
It was. Like I said, it was the old McCain Stadium. It was quite a big stadium. I remember having big crowds of 3,000 there at the time. Gary Bennett was there, and Jamie Mitchell and all the likes of that, Stuart Hicks, and they were all in the first team at the time. And obviously we were all young YTs. It was me, Neil Radigan and all them lot. They were just all local lads from around there. And I remember I used to get picked up from Catterick for Paul Hops and Rads and that. We used to drive over and go on the weekend and then go back there on Monday to Friday and train. It was mental. Up on the mount. We used to go up to the top of the mount and we'd train right at the top of the mountain. We'd run around the mere and all that around Scarborough. That was our pre-season training. It was mental.
Class man, isn't it? And obviously a massive change, obviously leaving for the RAF and then coming back after that to start playing the Northern League, and at the age of 25 joining Crook. What was it like the first taste of Northern League football? Like I say, it was proper football back then, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's just before you go back. Obviously, I was in the RAF regiment, and I got picked up. I used to play for the Combined Services team. Right. So at the time, I was playing for Combined Services, which is obviously Army, Navy, and Air Force. I was playing for their first team, so I was already playing at a high standard before I decided to come out. At the age of, like I said, 23, 24, I was just thinking about coming out. Afghanistan just started kicking off, and my wife fell pregnant with my eldest, so I decided, obviously, to put my PVR in and decided to get out. I just came back from Afghanistan and got out, and I settled back round down Catterick, and like I said, I was working at a place called Elgin Hall, down in Hunton, where I live around here, and they make fireplaces. And what it was what do you call it? Alan Oliver, his brother used to work in there. He said, "Oh, my brother's manager at Crook." He said, "I remember you saying you used to play Combined Services." He said he wants to have a look at you. Would you mind going up to Crook and playing? I said, "Well, I'll go up and have a look." He said, "He'll give you some petrol money and that. He's going to sort you out." I was like, "Oh, sweet." So I went up there and I went in the change rooms, and there was David Bales in there, Dally Mellenby all in there, and they were in the change room. And like I said, I was only a young lad, and I'm there, and like I said, it was such a, I think it was like a big cup game or something like that. I remember, there was quite a fair few crowd in there, so it was a good days when they were back there. But like I said, I was a striker. I used to play at a high standard, so that didn't faze me. But it was just crazy to see some of them players now who were in management or big influential in Northern League still knocking around.
Yeah. No, I love transfer stories or going to clubs like little stories like that where brothers came down fireplace. It's crazy how transfer get moved sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
And obviously, like you say, you stopped playing for a little bit after that, after your son was born, but soon found obviously your way to Richmond Town as a player manager. Obviously, at that young age, was it kind of a massive step up taking such a big role, but also playing and trying to show an example on the pitch as well?
Yeah, well, what it was is obviously I live in Richmond. That's where I'm from.
Mhm.
I just had my son, and I couldn't. Like I said, I didn't really have a car, and I wasn't used to
Yeah,
travel. I couldn't afford to travel in, and the time Richmond Town were in the Teesside League. Now it was only local football, and the old manager Pete Marshall, he asked me. He said, "Look, he said I'm stepping down. Would you mind doing as becoming manager?" Now I know a lot of the lads around this area, and I have known grown up with them all. So it was, yes, it was I was a young age going into management, but I was a player manager. I had people helping me, so I felt quite capable of doing that role. To be fair, we did actually well. I think we finished second or third in the league that year. And like I said, but before the season ended, you're going to go into your next question is where it all took off, really, for me.
oh, that's it. Yeah, massive move. It wasn't like you see it at Shildon. And I know you mentioned obviously Gary Forrest was doing well at Coxer, and obviously spent a good few seasons there. Was it nice just to kind of settle down at a club and kind of make it feel like almost like a home for once there?
Well, what it was going back, obviously, Gary Forrest at the time was manager of Coxer. So
Mhm.
he was manager of Coxer in the Wearside League, and I was running Richmond Town. Now, my best mate was married to Gary Forrest's sister. So,
Nice.
and he was telling him all about me, how I used to play for Scarborough, etc., like that. And Gary said, "Oh, look," he said, "get him up here. Let's have a look at him." And I remember going up to Coxer in the Wearside League, and me and David Hutchinson, he's a bit older than me at the time, but me and him used to play up front, and we were banging them in for Coxer. I think Coxer we went on this big run that year, and they were almost close to getting promoted, but they didn't have the facilities. But
Right.
come the end of the season, what happened is obviously all the troubles at Shildon went on, and all the team left, and the old chairman left, and everything like that. And Gary said to me, he said, "Look," he said, "I've been offered the Shildon job." He said, "Obviously, I'd like to take some lads from Coxer." He said, "I'd like you to come with me." And I was like, "Well, what league are they in? What they go? Oh, they're in the first division." And I was like, "Oh, right, brilliant." He said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, you'll get some better petrol money, etc." And I was like, "Sweet." And then I went there with Gary Forrest. So I left obviously Richmond Town, and I went into the Northern League, and where I took. Obviously, there was a few players from around there, Jason Newell and stuff like that, and manages Richmond now. And there's a few other lads that came with me, and Bobby Moore, he was based around Daniel
Yeah.
Moore, he was based at Catterick. So I met him and I took him to Shildon with me. So that year we had such a good team, all from local lads from Catterick, really.
Oh, brilliant, was it? Yeah. No, really good. And getting on to obviously the Bishop move, and I know we've had Colin Myers on with some great stories as well. And he kind of said when he went into Bishop it was all kind of about building a new side. A lot of changes had to be made, and obviously there was Colin, Stephen was there, Bodgenstein, and then the likes of players like Jeffrey, Salvin, Turnbull, Empson. And he said in a way it was a bit like the crazy gang. And I would imagine with the time that you spent there, there's some good stories to be told.
Well, like I said, it was the crazy gang. Colin was obviously Colin came into Shildon. He was assistant manager at Shildon with Gary Forrest, so he already knew me from them days
Uh-huh.
at Shildon. When Colin went for the job, he said, "I've gone for the Bishop job. We've got a brand new stadium being built, so we're going to be moving into the new stadium." He says, "So we need to get a team together to move into this." Obviously, we were first here in West, at West Auckland's ground. I said,
Mhm.
but after that, we moved from there into the new ground. Now, when we were at West, we were ground sharing with West, and like I said, Colin put this team together. We had Peter Jeffries, Stephen Turnbull, Grant, Salah, and then you had the coaches with John Botstein and what do you call it, and Steve West and Colin. Do you know what I mean? And it was just a crazy game. We had laughs a minute, but when it was on the pitch, we had a serious job to do as well, which Colin had to do himself. But we had some good times there, and to be fair, Colin turned the club around. I think he did really from where the club was when he took over. It was in a bit of stranding. We went into the new ground. I know we had teething problems with the new ground. The pitch kept on
Yeah, it was,
moving
wasn't it?
and
Yeah.
moving, and there were big divots, and people. We had to put sand down. It was horrific, but. Like I said, those were the days when they first moved in, and it all worked out for the good for Bishops. To be fair,
Yeah, tell you something. I always remember the time when it was kind of the updates. I think it was on the was even Facebook or their website when they put on kind of month by month update the stadium. Cole was there with his hard hat on and stuff like that. But it was quite exciting to see, obviously, a club building kind of a new stadium and looking for the future ahead, and look where they are now with how well they're done. But it must be nice being a part of that as well, expecting to go to this new stadium, hopefully new plans at that time going ahead to push on as well.
Well, I remember that I said, is going into the new stadium, like there was so much uproar and clubs coming to players at the ground because some of the grass wasn't taken, and it was like it was like Blackpool Pleasure Beach at one time. There was more sand. There was more sand on the pitch than there was actual grass, and they were reporting the club to the league, and at the time, Colin was saying, "We're just playing it. We're playing it. Don't worry about that. We'll kick the ball in, stop in the sand." It was funny. I've got some old pictures where you can see how bad the pitch was. But like I said, it was just teething problems. But you look at the ground now, the ground staff, and how well the ground is now. It was great to be part of moving into that stadium and where the club is now. Exactly that.
Yeah, 100%. And this one I can't really wait to talk about was obviously the Bedlington, and obviously 2011. Remember the documentary very well, watching on BBC. Lord Bedlington comes over from America, electric scoreboard goes up and everything. And I mean, you go at that point, and what was it like just seeing them, and obviously what was going on behind the scenes as well?
Well, like I said, at the time we had Alex Benjamin there, Stephen Stewart there, and all them lot were there, and we couldn't believe it. Like I said, this Lord Bedlington had been given his title by his missus, and then next minute. I'm not being funny. We had all this training gear. We had the shorts. We had the t-shirts. We had the socks. We had his Rich on the shirt.
I remember Mr. Rich, yeah.
Well, like I said, he had Rich on the shirt. And then he said, "Oh, look," he said, "we'd like you to go over pre-season to come over to America." Now, like I said, at the time I never went over, but all the other lads went over. They played like 2 games over there, and they said it was just amazing. They're all expenses paid and everything like that. But we couldn't believe it. And then obviously, like you said, the scoreboard, he owned some baseball company, a ground or something like that. And this they just updated the new scoreboard, and he paid for the scoreboard to be shipped over. And like I said, the very first game, it came up, woof, woof, Bedlington scorer. It was absolutely crazy in the corner of this ground in Bedlington. And you've got this big, massive baseball scoreboard. It was hilarious. But like I said, to be fair, he put a lot of money into the club. Like that, we went without. We had every single thing. We had all top of the range tracksuits, all with his name on it and everything like that. But it was just that season. You had Alex Benjamin there. He was scoring for fun. He was scoring for fun at the time, and we had a really good side, to be fair. And it was just. I think what happened is he just got bored of it, and it just seemed to filter away, and the money seemed to filter away. But it was absolutely mental at the time, and everybody did all these documentaries going on about it. And you just couldn't believe that you were part of it.
It's crazy, but like you say, as fans watching on from the non-league as well, and you see obviously the scoreboard going up and this money getting put in, and it's nice to see teams now every now and again one season see this team putting money into a club and wanting to progress. And it is nice to see it from the outside as well. I know some fans will get jealous because their team's not getting it, but it was just nice to see at that time another club wanting to push on again as well, wasn't it?
It was, like I said at the time, Bedlington were struggling. I know they were. They were, like I said, where they all of a sudden, for him just to come in and put that amount of money into a club. All he'd been given is a title from his missus for his birthday. Like he said, his missus went. He wanted something different. He was a lord, and he wanted this lord. He got given this Lord Bedlington, and then he looked into it, and then he found that there was a Bedlington football team, and it just escalated. To be fair, if you looked at it now these days, you probably would have thought that this bloke's a scammer sort of thing. And but definitely. Like I said, to be fair to him, he put his money in, and. There was, like I said, everybody. We went without. There was we turned up on nights out, and he'd give you money. There was money going there for nights out and stuff like that. It was brilliant. Good time to be there. Steve Stewart will tell you, like I said, his amount of money that was just floating about for anything you wanted, really. Like if you wanted to go out on a night out, the money would be behind the bar for the lads to get a drink or. Tracksuits, you got tracksuits, you had the t-shirts. We went in there and we had a home kit, we had an away kit, we had a third kit, and they were all hung up neatly, all put there, tidy. It was mint. It was brilliant at the time. To be like in the Northern League, granted, a Division 3 team or do you know what I mean, a football league team, you expect that sort of thing, but for a Northern League team, you don't. It was just amazing at the time for us young lads, anyway.
No, definitely amazing. Really good. And before we move on, just want to say a massive thank you to everyone that's watching and hitting double figures, which we really appreciate your support. Any questions as well, get them in. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button as well. So moving on from that, and obviously joining Durham City at the time, and I know there's got a lot of good young players that you mentioned, obviously like Thompson, Fenwick coming through as well. At what stage was Durham at this time? I know I was kind of following them around this stage, and I was kind of watching a few games.
I think they've just been relegated from the Evo stick. So they've just been relegated from the. So they've just been moved down from the Evo stick and they've gone back into the Northern League. I think it was Dickie Ord was manager there, and like I said, Tommy English. It was me, Tommy English, Max Stoker. What do you call it? Scotty Fenwick, Stevie Thompson. We had Craig Ellison. We had such a good young side at the time.
Yeah,
and like I said, it was we were all probably in our prime. And I was probably, I would say 28, 29. I was probably the latter stages of my footballing career. I know some people would say that's the prime, but when you come up with a young 22-year-old Stevie Thompson and a young 24-year-old 24 Scotty Fenwick, who were firing at the time, it was hard for me to try and get in front of them lads, because anything Stevie Thompson hit at the time would go in. He still does now. And do you know what I mean? The same with Scotty, when Scotty was a Hartlepool and stuff like that. And these lads are just coming into they're starting their careers. I'm really coming to the latter stages. But at the time, it was a really good time. We were at New Ferrens Park, and things were good at the time. There was money there, and like I said, it was just, I think it was just when they started to decline, really, Durham, before the decline in the Durham pathway thing.
Yeah, no, like you say, it's brought back a lot of memories. Actually, talked about, because now we mentioned them players. I remember, like you say, I think it was a season after where all these young players just getting picked off one by one, weren't they, by other teams, and it was just a shame to see that they've obviously dropped back down to the Northern League, getting back on the track a little bit, and then they just got picked apart by other clubs, isn't it, at that point?
Yeah. Like I said, I think Stevie Thompson got picked up from Darlington a couple of seasons after.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It went like Tommy English and stuff like that. I think it was just like, it was a shame, because it was that type of year that if that team was probably stayed together, I think they probably would have got back straight up to the Evo stick if the ground was facilitated for the Evo stick at the time. But like I said, it was just a shame that all the lads started getting picked away and the manager left, and then the funding stopped and the sponsorship stopped, and it just all seemed to just all happen at once. It was just like one big massive implosion where you've gone from this, and this, and then all of a sudden it's just all gone. And that's what in reality happened.
Yeah, crazy times, wasn't it? And then between 2012, 2015, spells at Bishop, Shildon as well. At that point, like you say, you touched on there, and you left to get first team football. It's just all about enjoying your football again, scoring goals, and just trying to enjoy as much as you can at that time.
Well, like I said, it was trying to get back minutes again and back playing. And I went back with Colin at Bishop, and at the time, I felt I went back and I wanted to give it a good go, but again, I hit it at the wrong time. We had a young Andrew Johnson there, and me and AJ started up front, but AJ was just like literally a different level to what I was at the time. Yeah, granted, in my prime, I probably would have been on par with him, but I was. Anybody will know, I was not a quick striker. I was your old-fashioned striker who would hold the ball up and bring the thing in, and you don't get them these days. And where your AJ's, he was quick and he was running and he would run at fingers, he'd score the goals. But yeah, and then I went back to Shildon, and then I had Stevie Johnson at Shildon with me, and he was just come back from Darlington. And do you know what I mean? It was. I think every time I wanted to do it, but I just don't think that my body wanted to do it as much as I wanted to do it.
No, you've got to listen sometimes, don't you?
Yeah, exactly that.
But 2015, I moved to Hebburn with manager Dean Nicholson, then Northampton with Mark Fan as well. And like you say, some good names in the Northern League, and then back to Crook as well with Chris Lax. And bringing the playing days to an end, but there's some good moves in there as well. Like I say, worked with some good managers, and it was like you say, just coming at the end, it was all about enjoying it. But we worked with some good people and some good players that I imagine coming through at that time as well.
No, so I went up to Hebburn, and obviously me and Dean Nicholson, Benno was managing, but me and Dean Nicholson were playing together. So Dean Nicholson, who's now Heaton Stanley Thingy's manager, and me and Dean were playing there, and there was another lad called Matt Stevens, and he was there. But we had a good side, but like I said, my body couldn't do it anymore. Then I went to Northallerton where Mark Fanning just took over in the second division, and we went there, and I was playing with Adam Emerson, my mate. Me and Emma used to play up front for them, and we're doing the biz. But like I said, it was just getting to that point in my career where I wanted to play, and I did. I was a heavy set lad, and Colin and all them will tell you that I didn't like pre-season. I wouldn't do pre-season. My pre-season entails a fag and probably signing on the latter stages of pre-season. probably 2 weeks before pre-season started, that's when I would agree to sign for a club. So I missed the whole of pre-season.
Keep the mobile turned off.
But yeah, like I said, I went to Northallerton and I enjoyed my time there, and there were some good clubs there, and we had some good teams like Chillingworth. Carl Chillingworth was at Northallerton, and like I said, we had some really good teams, and it was just, like I said, I was at that point in my career where I just had my second son as well, and I didn't feel as if my heart was in it as much. Well, yes, I think it helped. Do you know what I mean? Get out on a Saturdays, but I just think my body didn't want to do it as much as I wanted to in the early stages. Do you know what I mean?
No, definitely. But some, like you say, some good memories, players that you played with, managers that you played as well. But looking back the Northern League, and even now, it's special to see a lot of players that played in it, good clubs' histories as well, and the battles and characters that's involved. It's a special league, isn't it?
Well, like I said, if you look back over the years, I would say like some of the clubs we've had in the Northern League was unreal. Like your Spennies back in the day. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Your Spennymoors, your Darlington, even your Darlingtons and your Durhams at the time. And they were all top teams with top players that were literally coming from the Football League, like your Rushes and stuff like that. And Tommy English has all been at Sunderland or been part of some, do you know what I mean? Some Football League club, and they'd not done so well there, and they've stepped back, and they've been given a lifeline in the Northern League, which is not too many step below the pyramid system. And like at the time, Darlington, like I remember playing Darlington. Darlington just come back. Obviously, they'd disbanded, come back, and they were in the Northern League, and they had Amir and Arj Pure for them, and they had Tom up there at the time, and do you know what I mean? Leon and Scott was there at the time. They had a decent team that were all young now, but some of these lads are still playing now, mind you. Yeah. You know what I mean? I remember playing with Amir and Arj at Bishop, and they were like young 18, 19-year-old kids. Now you look at Amir and Arj now, they're both playing Northern Premier League. So it goes to show that even at that time, like I think the Northern League was a bit more special, a bit more better than it is now, personally. Yeah. I think that, do you know what I mean? That's my personal opinion. But some of the players that have come through are unreal, like your Rushes and Leo, do you know what I mean? All them. So,
really good. And during your time, obviously, playing in the Northern League, as you were going around the clubs and managing, did you kind of pick up ideas from their managers as well for coming up to your managing stage as well?
Yeah, like I said, I know hold my hands up. I've never done a coaching course or FA level 1 or anything like that. I've always picked up things from other managers. There was a manager I was watching earlier he's the same. He's never believed in any of these FA courses.
Oh, is that under the coach?
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but he's never done any coaching course. He don't believe it, and it was enlightening to hear, because it's not that I don't believe in him. I just believe you pick much more off playing the game and learning off other managers, off different aspects of certain different things that I picked up through my career. Like, nobody could tell me, like, how many times now I've come up to people going, "Oh, I wish you were still playing, Wayne, because I need a striker like you, because someone who can hold the ball up and stuff like that." You don't get many strikers like that these days that will hold the ball up and bring in the midfield and stuff like that. And it's right. The game's changed now from back then. It was, I remember playing Ian Dixon at Spennymoor. He used a centre-back at Spenny. I was up front, and he came up to me, and he literally nipped my sides. And I went like that, and I went like that, bang, I banged him in the chest, and he punched me in the hip, and I banged him again. And then after the game, he came up to me and said, "I never expected that." I said, "I've never had that before in my life." And then me and him became really good mates. But it's just little things like that like now, that happens in a game. Someone's down and he's crying about, and do you know what I mean?
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah,
It is absolutely ridiculous. Before we get to managing side of things as well, and again, still double figures, absolutely fantastic support. Thank you as always, everyone that's been watching. Again, plenty of time to get your comments in as well. If you've got any questions for Wayne, we'll get them read out as well. And getting on the management side of things in Richmond Town, Darlington Academy as well, assistant manager at Wolverstone and Shilton Reserves, but we know obviously your main love, which was for Durham City. When you became assistant there in the Northern League Division 2 with Mighty Western, no budget, obviously young squad. That first spell was really tough at that time.
Yeah, well, like I said, I've got two boys, and obviously I wanted to help them their career, and that's why I started with the Darlington Academy. Both of them were in the Darlington Academy at the time. I've done the under 12s all the way up to the under 17, under 16. I did their whole system from the under 12s to under 16s. Manage their team, and I used to do the Russell Foster Premier League, and then I used to do the TGFA on the Sunday. So I used to have them Saturday and Sunday. So my whole weekend was took up with the kids on a Saturday and Sunday, and then Laxey took over at Wolverstone, and he asked me to go up there. So I went up there as assistant, helped him form that team, and then I went from there. But like I said, my main love was at Durham, and I remember me and Mikey going up to Durham, and we had no money, we had got no budget, and everything had just gone a bit Pete Tong. And we went in there, we had no players. And me and Mikey, we held a open day, and we put this open day on. We had no training ground. We had to hold it on the park opposite the industrial estate of Durham. Do you know where New Ferrens is? Do you know the park there? We had the open day on that park where we turned up on the park, and there was these 30 lads there, and we're thinking, well, Mikey, do you know him? No, I don't know him. I don't know him. And like I said, we were playing with cones on the park, and I'm thinking, what have I done here? What have I done? And like I said, we had no budget, and in the Northern League, that was quite a hard thing to have no team and no budget, and that's what it was. We had to pick 13, 14 players that we never met and try and put them in a squad, and then we had to get them playing in the Northern League. And Mikey at the time was manager, and he had a difficult job, and we did it together. We got players together. Unfortunately, it never worked out, and he lost his job. And when he lost it, what do you call it? I felt like I had unfinished business, but I carried it on. I got Durham's first win that season. We went and beat Billingham Symphonia. I remember 3-2. We went out to Billingham Symphonia and beat them, and we got 3 points. And then I obviously found out about my mum. So
yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that first win as well, it must have been a special night coming back, and obviously getting on the training field the next week, and just the confidence, the smiles on players' faces. It's just nice to see, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We had some good players there, to be honest. We had the likes of Stephen Telford and Danny Mack and Harry Spence. All these lads now playing Wayside League. They were really good players. They've just, I think it was just a season too early for them. I think at the time they were 19, 20 young lads, and do you know what I mean? I think it was just a season too early. I think if given another season, I think they would have bonded well. But, you know, in the Northern League, like, it wasn't good that Durham City had gone from all this up being up the top end, and they're down the bottom, and we haven't won in 12 games, I think it was. And do you know what I mean? And we're bottom of the league with 1 point or something stupid like that. And that was just do you know what I mean? I think it was the season after Ollie had left. So that's when it was. So Ollie Hotchkiss was there the season before, and he'd done really well. And then he'd left, and then all the players left with him and left nobody really. So yeah, to get that first 3 points, it was a massive, massive buzz around the place.
Oh, great. And one thing that really touches when we're chatting about when you coming on the show as well, like you mentioned, obviously you stepped down due to your mum sadly passing away with the battle with cancer, but you felt like you let Durham down at the time with everything that was going on. But it was nice to see it was almost like a project for yourself. I think, right, this is unfinished business, and coming back, was that the drive that kind of made you go back to Durham City at the time?
Yeah, well, what it was is at the time, obviously, my mum had breast cancer, and she'd just gone. She'd been in remission 8 years, and it started coming back when I just like literally took the role as manager. And I remember at the time I was thinking to myself, my heart's not in it in a minute. Do I step away and do I let somebody else just not really brush it under the carpet, but try and give somebody else a better chance of doing something and continuing what I'd already, not just me, what me and Mikey had already done that season. And what happened is obviously my mum had radiotherapy, and then 2 weeks later I lost her. And I remember turning around to Gary Hutchinson at the time. He was the chairman, and Olivia Bernard was there. And I turned around to her and said, look, I said, I'm going to have to step away. I said, I can't do it anymore. I've got my priorities lie elsewhere. And they were really good, to be fair. And Olivia Bernard took over as manager at the time, I think. And yeah, I know that my mum at the time would have wanted me to step away. She wouldn't have wanted me to step away from the whole situation, but I know that it was the right thing to do, was to step away from it. And now that is what is my driving force behind making Durham successful again, because not because of my mum, but also because of the club as well. Do you know what I mean? I believe the club deserves better. From when I remember it in the Dickie Odd days and the Evo Stick days, that is the Durham that I remember. And people can sit on the outside and they say, oh, well, this is X, Y. So what? It is what it is. We're here today, present day, from what's happened in the past. We can't fix that past. We can only mend what's going forward. And that's where we are now, is what we're trying to do with the club is make it better.
I always remember like the show not long after, obviously, Durham was kind of saved, and I always touch on it, like you say, I was one of the first clubs I went down to watch with my granddad. It was just so many memories of going down game by game, and obviously going away games as well. And then obviously when we had the show, it wasn't long after, like you say, the news came out that was going to be it. The regulations being put into the Durham FA. And all of a sudden, yourself, Gary, and other people involved at the time kind of saved the club, and we had you on the show. But it was nice to see that Durham was going to continue, because, I mean, a lot of people can look at, as you just mentioned there, this is where they are now, blah, blah. But as you say, you've got to keep going. And it was just nice to see the club not die. And it's a huge club, isn't it, with a lot of history and, like you say, memories for myself and everyone that's been to Durham City before.
What I was trying to say, Rainey, like I said, I've said to you many times before, we've had conversations off the pitch and off show. But people don't realise how close that Durham City were close to folding. Like I said, they don't realise how close it was to even not finishing last season. Like everybody can sit at home and say, oh yeah, well, Olivia Bernard puts this in, and we have, like I said, we have nothing. We have, like, literally what we make. We make ourselves. We have our own bank account. We are paying for everything. Me, Gary, even sometimes I'll openly admit, out my own pocket, I've put my own money out my own pocket to ensure that the club continues now. And Gary will tell you that. And that is what I'm doing. And there's people on there. There's Charlotte. You spoke to Charlotte. She sells her shirts off to put money in for the club to survive. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, granted, it's step by step. It's baby steps. And I don't want praise for it. Charlotte doesn't want praise for it. Gary don't want praise for it. It's what we believe in. And that's what we keep saying is, people can sit at home and say, oh, no, yeah, this is it. It's not. Because contrary to beliefs, it is not what you think it is. It is me, Charlotte, Gary, Ian, Andrea, Lance, Charlotte, Mark, Ryan, Kevin, Brian Telfer. That is it. We are doing whatever we can together to make as much money as we can for this club to survive. And that's where we're at. We're surviving on a month-to-month basis at the minute. And Kevin Walters can show you the spreadsheet. We have a spreadsheet of the treasure of how we are as a club and where we're at as a club. I think we're probably £71 in our bank account at the minute. Do you know what I mean? That's where we're at.
No, great. So, even Jason, thank you very much for watching, mate. Really appreciate your support as always. Hope you're doing well. But it was nice, obviously, yes, got relegated down from last season, but how nice was it just to have a full pre-season and getting lads in and working with them for the full summer, rather than, like you say, getting chucked in the deep end last season where you just kind of put 20 players in the squad, and that was it, wasn't it, really?
It was. And I said this to Gary, and I've said this to the committee. I said, I know it sounds bad, but I think it was I know it's hard to say, but the situation we're already in, I think we were 99% relegated when we took over last season. It was a hard ask to turn that around and survive. Yes, there might have been people out there that could have done it, but there was no one else willing to do it. And like I said, overall now, on reflection, I think it was probably the best thing for the club. We've managed to reset. We've managed to get players in that we want in. We managed to get a squad together that we can work with. That's not just me. That's Mikey Weston's with me. We got James Gilby, we've got Kyle, we've got Junior, we've got John James, we've got Robbo, our new physio. I mean, we've now got a team there, my backroom staff, that can work with players and do things professionally off the pitch and get it right this season. Like I said, is me as manager, I can hold my hand up. There's a little fact that I'm still unbeaten this season because I was in Turkey when they got beat last week. So that's not on me. But I'm saying it's little baby steps like that. I'm confident in this team, and we're a young team. We're working together as a team, and we're developing. And that's what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to build for the future, not just for next year or this year. We're trying to build stability within the club. That's on and off the pitch. And that's where we're at the minute is, like you said, it's good to be able to have a pre-season with these lads. But the amount of players that still now asking, can we come to Durham? Can we come to Durham? And I would like to see everybody wants to come to Durham, I would. But there's only so many times in the day that you promise somebody, yeah, come along, and then they let you down, and they let you down. And like I said, we're at that stage now where we've got a very good squad, and it's just now fine-tuning that very good squad.
Definitely. Say every Saturday, first thing I look on Facebook, social media, just trying to see what the score is. If we've got the Newcastle match out with the family, always the first time I look for the scores straight. Hopefully, getting back down next couple of weeks. Actually, we've got Fandom coming down as well with the Bairns. Once the shirts are put out as well. Just to finish off our quick fire round as well now. So every player that comes on with a looking back, we always kind of go through 5 questions about your career. So number 1, who would be the best manager that you've worked under and why?
Oh God, that's a close one. See, I would say either Colin Myers or Gary Forrest. Both got their attributes, both good managers, both still present, both still current. They've got to be up there, but like I said, I worked under Mick Wadsworth at Scarborough, and yes, he was firm, but yes, he was fair, and he had a goal, and he achieved that. So I would say Mick Wadsworth.
Excellent. And best teammate that you played with?
Best teammate? Oof.
Yeah.
I would have to say Stephen Selvin. Professional, quality, always give you 100%, leader on and off the pitch.
Yeah, a few players mentioned when they've been on, actually. Great character, like you say, great player as well. Number 3, best opposition player that you've played against?
I played against some really good ones. Rasher, Tommy English, I played against all of them. I would like to say best Ian Dixon when he was at Spennymoor. He was physical, he was a little brute, and I used to enjoy my little battles with him, so I'll go with Ian Dixon.
Yeah, he's lumbered Durham City. Fantastic. And number 4, the best footballer moment for yourself?
Best football. I've had some good moments. Went down with the Vars with Shildon. We weren't supposed to go very far. We're also with Bishops as well. I would like to say probably, hopefully, I'm going to say this season, get a promotion back with Durham. That's what I'm going to stick with.
Fingers crossed. I really hope so. I really hope so. Number 5, one of your funniest footballing moments that you've been with. Like you've seen the chain room on a team bus, what would be the one that stands out every time you look back?
Oh God, there's so many. But like I said, one of the best ones was Peter Jeffries, and there was a young Joe Grant in the change room. Peter Jeffries came out the shower, and I always remember him just jumping on top of the thing naked, fully naked. Next minute, Grant looks around and he catches him. Yeah, I won't say what with, but poor young Joe Grant was scarred for the rest of his life.
Oh, class, man. Some great stories. But no, Wayne, thank you very much for coming on out and sharing your stories over your career as well. And obviously, Durham City, and we honestly wish you the very best of luck all season. Like I say, hopefully we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time as well, down in Horton as well there.
Thank you very much, mate. Thank you.
Not a problem. Up next, interview next week, Wednesday the 20th, 9:10, with interview with Jake Rushby, a writer from North Shields, coming out and talk about his new book, Newcastle United Match of My Life. A lot more non-league stuff coming up in there as well over the next couple of weeks, so keep your eyes on that. And we've got Cheshire Street special next week with Dick. We mixed all the names that you give us there tonight. With the Cheshire Street manager, coming on for that as well, which are really good talking now. I know they've had a great start in Division 2 this season as well, so really looking forward to that. But no, thank you so much, everyone that's been watching as well. Really appreciate your support as always, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. And thank you again so much, Wayne, for coming on the show tonight.
Cheers, bud.